Mars, fourth tour, part 2, 2025-2026. In part 1, we went from Superior Junction back in November 2023, all the way up to opposition in January of 2025. So now we'll continue with part 2, going from opposition to Superior Conjunction. As shown in part 1, Mars has a cycle, sometimes 15 years, sometimes 17 years, where we'll start with a close opposition, like back in 2018, where Mars is near perihelion, so it's nice and close to the Earth. Then each opposition coming will be less and less. It's 2 years and 2 months, that's how long. So usually 2 zodiac constellations over. So you'll get a bright opposition near perihelion, and each one will be dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until it finally bottoms out when we have an opposition near aphelion, which will be next time. Then they'll get brighter and brighter till it goes back to an opposition near perihelion, which will be in 2035, next one. We're at the fourth one, not the worst, not the lowest, not the dimmest, but getting there. Highlights from part 1. Let's do that first. Mars started this apparition at Superior Conjunction on November 18th, 2023. Nice conjunction with Venus on February 22nd, 2024. It's not going to be a good Mars-Venus conjunction for a while. Mars had an opposition from Venus before its opposition on Earth. Mars is actually brighter on Venus. It was closer to perihelion. Mars was visible during the Great American Eclipse. And Mars had a close conjunction with Saturn on April 10th, 2024. Eastern quadrature on 7/2/2024. And a close conjunction in Uranus on 7/15/2024. Mars had a nice showing of Jupiter via the Perseid meteor shower, and a conjunction with Jupiter 3 days later. Very close. Top of the zodiac. Earth had its greatest elongation from Mars, an elongation 41.46. And back on Earth, it was the Western quadrature. And Mars started their retrograde motion on 12/7/2024. As we enter 2025, Mars has its closest approached. Mars had a nice occultation with the Moon, where the Moon covered it for an hour or two in any location in the United States. Mars' greatest brilliancy. And we end where we start, at Mars' opposition, 1/16/2025. Okay, we start back up at opposition. That's how we start part 2 today. And it didn't take long to lose a third of its brightness, dimming back down to the -1 magnitude. Mars is still in retrograde motion, if you notice. It's going backwards. And top of the zodiac. And another opposition of Mars from Venus. This one's not as bright as the last one from Venus we saw in part 1. It was brighter than the one on Earth. But Mars is near aphelion this time, so not very bright for Venus this time, only -0.57. And Mars will end its retrograde motion after 78 days and went back 19 degrees. That's very far. In fact, it was in Cancer when before it started and ends up back in Gemini. And Mars dims down to 0 magnitude. It means Mars is only 25% as bright as it was when it was in opposition, just not even 2 months ago. So yes, it's losing brightness very fast. And Mars reaches its furthest part from the Sun. Just right before Eastern quadrature. And when it's quadrature from Earth, when the outer planet's quadrature from Earth, that means from the outer planet, Earth will be at greatest elongation. Since Mars is at aphelion, near its farthest point, Earth has one of its not as good elongation as previous. Only 37 degrees, that's less than the 41 degrees was last time, and its magnitude's a little lesser at negative 1.56. This time, from Mars, Earth is a morning star. And Mars finally ends up back where it started from, where it started its retrograde motion. Mars continues to dim rapidly. Now it's only 1 magnitude. That means it's only about 11% as bright as it was when it was opposition. Mars beats the brightest star in Leo, Regulus. Also, Mars is starting to take a low trajectory. It's starting to run low now. And we're at Western quadrature. Mars and the Earth are at right angles from the Sun. Even though Mars is still 48 degrees because it's running very low, its visibility in the northern hemisphere is starting to wane. This pretty much last you'll see him. It'll die out in the summer and that'll be it. So we're going to switch over to the southern hemisphere. And yep, here we're back on the southern hemisphere. This is running low. Mars is still very high in the sky and still kind of visible. This is Mars's eastern dimmest brilliancy. This is as dim as Mars gets. Mars is only about 6% as bright as it was when it was in opposition back in January. Nice Mars-Mercury conjunction in Libra's box. And conjunction Aries. But now Mars is only 13 degrees from the Sun, so it's pretty much even invisible in the southern hemisphere. Okay, here's an interesting event happening on Mars. You get a double moon transit. Phobos and Deimos both transit the Sun somewhere on Mars almost every single day. But transiting the Sun together? That's very rare. Maybe once a decade. This is the transit look in real time. Almost. Phobos is not as round, it's more potato shaped. This is Stellarium. And this is only about as long as it lasts, only lasts a few seconds. That's all it takes for Phobos to transit the Sun from Mars. Phobos being so close and so fast in the sky that it's over before you know it. Mars' first distance almost a superior conjunction, being far. And Mars ends in superior conjunction. That's 2 years and almost 2 months. Hope you enjoyed this little tour of Mars through both parts 1 and 2. And got 2 years to redo this video for the next round. As you remember from the original graphic in the beginning, Mars' next opposition will be much lamer than this one's. So, see you then. Take care.